Okay, so we are moving on from text features, and we are going to move on to 3 different types of nonfiction text. And today you're going to be working with them. We're going to be cutting this out on the solid black lines here. It'll make a rectangle, and then you're going to cut right here on this line, and you're going to cut right here on this line. And then you're going to put glue carefully just on this corner, well, not corner, but right here down this side. You don't want to glue your flaps down because we are going to write the definitions of each underneath the flap. Okay, so let's pause the video and give you some time to do that first. Okay, we've paused the video, hopefully. And let's talk about these 3 types of text. First of all, scientific text. Hopefully you see the word science, or part of the word science in this word. This is everything that you are going to do in Miss Rogers' class. If you all had science textbooks, they would go under scientific text. Any type of lab packets or things you read that have to do with science topics, those are scientific text. So I pulled out of my bookcase downstairs in my living room. This says The Planets. Okay, so this book is all about our planets that we have. This would be a scientific text. So underneath the scientific text flap, I want you to write down a non-fiction book that talks about scientific topics. And then I want you to list some examples, such as a science textbook, a book about planets. What are you studying about now in science? I really don't know. Write that down, tell the substitute, and then write that down as a possible book. A book about gravity, or, oh, I know, potential energy, kinetic energy. Those would all be scientific text. Okay, I'm going to pause the video right now for you to go ahead and catch up with scientific text. Maybe talk to your neighbor, do whatever the substitute wants you to do. Come up with some own scientific text of your own, okay? All right, I'll see you back in a second for historical. Okay, historical text. Hopefully when you look at that word and when you hear that word, you think of the word history, or as we call it, social studies. In our room, over by the telephone, in those bookcases, have the substitute grab one of those green social studies books. That would be an example of a historical text. Again, I went down to my living room and pulled from my bookcase a book about Beethoven. He was a composer, and because it is going to tell about him in history and what he did to make him famous, his what he did for music, that makes it a historical text. If you're reading about the Civil War, if you are reading about World War I or World War II, that is going to be a historical text, okay? So write down the definition, a nonfiction book that discusses history concepts and topics, and then write down some examples, like our social studies book, like our Beethoven book, like World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, Civil War, all those things, okay? So take a second and do that right now. You can pause that video now. All right, we're going to come back with technical text. Technical text is basically a how-to. It can be a how to put together your dining room table. It can be a how to put together your favorite Lego toy. It's simple directions, and clue words are going to be first, second, next, then, and last. I went to my pantry and I grabbed a cookbook. And when I open up my cookbook, I see that there's a recipe, and in my recipe, it tells me exactly what I need to do in what order. This is an example of a technical text. So a good definition of a technical text is a nonfiction book that tells you how to do something or the steps in a process. A cookbook would be an example. A user's instruction manual, maybe for your car, for your TV, for putting together any type of toy, okay? So that is technical text. Take a second, pause the video, get the definition written down, and go ahead and get some examples, okay? Make sure that's good in your notebook. All right, after you all fill this out, you've got another piece of paper, which I don't have in front of me, but it's got all different sorts of examples of books and text, and then it's got a line beside it. You and your substitute are going to go over each one, and you're going to decide, is it scientific text, historical text, and technical text. It's really important that you all are not guessing, because sometimes you can guess correctly. We don't want to guess. We want to know for sure. And I want you to be able to prove. How do you know it's a scientific text? Give me that definition. Give me the reasons why it's scientific. How do you know it's technical? Give me the reasons why it's technical. And how do you know it's historical? List the reasons why it's historical, okay? Listen to your substitute. She may want you to do this alone, independently. He or she may want you to do this with a partner, or you may want to do the first couple whole group and then go out into a partner. All right, I hope you all have listened. I hope you paid attention. I hope I don't have any names on the mirror. And I hope you've learned a little bit about what's a historical text, what's a scientific text, and what's a technical text. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.